What would you do if you found out that you weren't the biological child of the man you've called dad for over 20 years? How would that make you feel? And what if your mother suddenly disappeared right after the truth came out? This story isn't just about a family crisis. It's a shocking revelation that will make you rethink everything. How will the Phillips family deal with this? An astonishing secret behind a DNA test result will leave you speechless. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. James Phillips' sister-in-law, Susan, gave everyone in the family one of those kits to trace their ancestors. Her own family had all spit in a test tube and were excited with the results. It turns out they were 100% Swedish/Norwegian, not a lick of any other blood. Susan knew her husband's family were mutts and thought it would be interesting to learn how mixed up they were. "It'll be fun," she shouted. She had no idea that mixed up can have so many different meanings. You never know how these things are going to end. But Susan is one of those women that can light up a room just by walking into it. So the entire Phillips family did the spit in the test tube, and we're going to reveal the results right after Easter dinner. Ma Phillips, Sarah, did it upright. The dinner table overflowed with an assortment of vegetables and other side dishes to accompany the great roast of lamb and Spanish rice. All family favorites. James's siblings, older brother Hal, short for Henry, and younger sister Molly were there with their spouses. James had invited his current squeeze, but she bowed out to spend the day at her grandparents'. The relationship was in its infancy, so they were lucky not to be required to eat twice on Easter. James's dad, Henry Sr., did the honors by slicing the lamb and passing out a slice to the outstretched plates of each person around the family table. Even Molly took a slice, obviously over her 2-year experiment with vegetarianism. With their plates filled, Hal said Grace and Henry gave a toast to the love and the kindness this family has shown each other. If anyone noticed the tears falling from Sarah's eyes, no one made mention of it. Sarah had a habit of crying when she was happy, when she watched old movies, or on those rare occasions when she was sad. The family was inured to Sarah's tears. When everyone finished eating, Hal and James cleared the table. This was a custom in the Phillips house. Ma cooked with Molly's help. The boys cleared the table and filled the dishwasher. James and Hal came back to the table to find everyone sitting with their unopened envelopes in front of their seats. The plan was to read the results and then dig into the banana cream pie for dessert. As the envelopes were being opened, Sarah got up from the table and excused herself. Everyone assumed she was going to use the bathroom and continued to read the results from the testing service. Henry read his first, 95% British/Irish, 5% Dutch. As soon as Hal opened his envelope, Susan grabbed it from his hands, too excited to wait. "I knew it. I knew you had an interesting mix. 46% British/Irish, 28% French/German, and 26% Iberian. That's Spanish and Portuguese, right?" Susan handed the printout back to her husband and leaned to her left to look at Molly's printout. Almost exactly the same, except Molly has more French/German and less Iberian. "What's yours say, James?" James was staring at the printout. The look on his face showed the confusion raging in his mind. He looked up from the page to focus on Susan's smiling face, then to his brother and sister sitting on each side of Susan. Please pause for 2 seconds. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is a great inspiration and encouragement for us. Thank you very much. He finally swiveled to the head of the table. His father was staring back at him. He couldn't read his father's eyes. The silence was interrupted by Hal. "Did I just hear the garage door open? And where's Mom?" Hal got up from the table and he looked out the front window. "Dad, Mom's pulling out of the drive. What the heck is going on?" Molly pulled out her phone and dialed her mother's cell. Everyone was now staring at Molly as she waited for Sarah to answer her phone. The room was quiet enough to hear Sarah's voice when she picked up. "I'm sorry, baby. Tell everyone that I'm sorry," and then the line went dead. "Dad, what's going on?" Henry looked like he had aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. "James, why don't you read what the service sent you?" James hesitated. Did his father really want this made public? "Go ahead, son. Fun. It says I'm 50% Italian, 22% Iberian, and 28% French/German. Suddenly, James remembered all the ribbing Eric Rizzo, and he got in school because they looked similar. He looked at his father. Dad, did you know? The rest of the family sat in stunned silence, watching and waiting for Henry's answer. I started to suspect it when I saw you and Eric Rizzo standing close together on your junior high baseball team. It happened about the same time that Eric's mother and father split up. No one knew why they split, but it didn't take to make an assumption that Eric's mother saw the same thing I did. Henry addressed the others. I hate to be rude, but I think James and I need to discuss this alone, outside on the porch. How, Molly? I think you should give your mother a little time before you call her. And when you do, please be kind. This is no time to drill her for answers. I have my own questions that I believe should be answered first. Please respect your mother's and my privacy. James, grab your drink and let's head outside. James and Henry walked out to the porch and sat down. James didn't wait to ask his first question. So is Mr. Rizzo my father? Well, I'm your father. Please don't insult the 22 years I spent raising you by denying me that title. Sorry, Dad. That came out wrong. Me too. What I meant to say is just because I didn't contribute to your DNA doesn't mean you're not my son, or that I don't love you just as much as I always have. But to answer your question, maybe Rizzo is your biological father. I don't know. We'll have to ask your mother when she's ready. Where do you think she went? Henry actually laughed. Where else? I suspect she's sitting on your Aunt Jessica's sofa right now, bawling her eyes out in her sister's arms. Dad, you said you started to suspect over 12 years ago. Why didn't you ever confront Mom and ask her about it? A bunch of reasons. For one, I didn't want anything to come between you and me. By the time I began to suspect it, I was hopelessly in love with you as my son. I've always been proud of you and proud to be your father. I didn't want anything to change. Henry took a drink from his whiskey glass and continued. I hope you don't think any less of me as a man, but the second reason is I love your mother so damn much that I didn't want that to change either. As far as I could tell, your mother was in love with me. She showed me that love every day we were married. When I reflect on it, her love only intensified after you were born. If she had a fling with Eric's father, she tried to make it up to me for the past 20 plus years. I was happy to let her, but if you like the status quo, why did you go along with Susan's suggestion for the DNA tests? Hell, James, you know your brother's wife? Do you think she'd ever let it go? That girl is so damn innocent. She never dreamt our family could have a skeleton in our closet. Your brother is lucky. Both father and son laughed as Henry refilled James's glass with 2 fingers of wild turkey. Besides, it was time to bring it to a head. Your mother and I have had a secret between us all these years, and I wanted to know the who, what, and why. I probably could have done it in a better setting, but I guess I got a case of the stupid, and I thought your mother would approach me with some answers before it got this far. I really didn't expect her to take off like that. Now the two of them sat and let the quiet of Sarah's backyard fill their senses, neither saying a word. Sarah's spring flowers, the white lilies, blue irises, and multicolored pansies graced the brick patio. It was truly a peaceful, beautiful space. 10 minutes went by in silence before Hal stuck his head out the back door. Dad, James, we're all going to take off unless you need us here. Molly tried calling Mom again, but it went to voicemail. You know Molly and Susan? Neither of those two could let it go. Molly was standing right behind Hal when he said this and made her displeasure known by punching her oldest brother in the arm. Molly hugged her dad and then her brother James, practically squeezing his breath away. There were tears in her eyes. Molly's husband shook everyone's hand and led Molly away. Susan was next, repeating the sequence, hugging Henry and squeezing James while kissing his cheek before Hal led her out the side gate. Henry watched them leave and pointed James to the patio chair. Let's finish our drinks. I'd like you to do me a favor. Could you ask Eric if he knows how to get in touch with his father? James looked over at his father. Why? You're not going to do something stupid, are you? No, not that it hasn't crossed my mind once or twice, or sometimes I fantasize about hurting him, but right now I just need to talk with him before I talk to your mother. That's the trouble with infidelity, James. It robs you of the trust you have in your spouse's words and actions. Remember that if and when you get married, you'll have plenty of opportunities to stray, and you may think you can pull it off without hurting your marriage, but it always takes at least a little chip out of the relationship no matter how inconsequential the betrayal may seem at the time. Okay, Dad, as long as you promise. I'll give Eric a call tomorrow. Last I heard, Mr. Rizzo was selling cars up north in Dallas. What are you going to tell Eric, James? Let's wait till our family situation gets squared away. Then Eric and I will talk about our relationship. I expect Eric's always wondered himself if he doesn't already know. Thanks. I'd like to surprise Michael Rizzo if I can. Now that the lid was blown off the kettle, no one wanted to waste any time. James called Eric Monday morning and after the usual catch-up, found out where Eric's father worked without revealing the why. Just two friends shooting the shit. How's your mom? How's your dad? What are they up to? Tuesday at 3 p.m., Henry Phillips was knocking on Michael Rizzo's sales office door jamb at the Lexus dealership where Michael worked. As Michael looked up from the papers on his desk, the old feelings were welling up inside Henry. The desire to punch this asshole right in the nose. Henry, it had been over a dozen years, and Michael couldn't think of a reason his old neighbor was standing in his doorway. Henry took a moment to collect himself. Hi, Michael. I was wondering if you had a moment to talk. It's private, so maybe we could go somewhere a little less public. Michael's thoughts were starting to catch up. Sure, let's grab a car and go for a ride. Michael grabbed a set of keys to a car and held the door open for Henry. They drove to a nearby park and got out without saying a word. Both men sat on the bench facing a small pond. I want to know about you and Sarah. Michael was still catching up. Henry's words weren't what he expected. His face showed the surprise. What do you mean, me and Sarah? There never was anything between me and your wife. Michael's attempt at deflection pissed Henry off. What do you mean? Nothing. Don't mess with me, Michael. Please comment number 1 so that I can know that you like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support is a great inspiration and encouragement for us. Thank you very much. It doesn't take a genius to see James and Eric are brothers, and James's DNA just came back. He's half Italian Rizzo. Although the situation was hilarious to Michael, he was smart enough to realize it wouldn't be funny to Henry. After all, Michael had a dozen years to get used to the idea. Henry was only now going to learn the truth. Michael stifled the laugh. Jesus, Henry, haven't you and Sarah talked? It wasn't me that you were looking for. At first, I thought it was you banging my ex, Victoria. When I saw James and Eric playing in the ballpark together, I figured they both had to be your sons because I'd never touched your wife. In fact, I was ready to go down and kick your ass. Luckily, I picked a fight with Victoria first. Told her I was going to make you pay. That's when Victoria told me the truth. Frank Mazzetti is Eric's father, Mazzetti, that no good guy who lived on the corner before he moved west. Dad was stunned. You mean Mazzetti was involved with both Victoria and Sarah? Victoria didn't say if she knew anything about Sarah, although she suspected, I guess. What Victoria did say was Mazzetti was most likely Eric's father because they were having an affair when she got pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? Because you and Sarah seemed to be happy. I thought you two had a good marriage. Hell, I thought if I figured out about Eric and James, you probably had. And who was I to make waves if you didn't? Henry had to think about this, but it did make sense. Henry, I'm sorry if you think I should have said something. After I found out, I knew that Victoria and I were getting a divorce. I couldn't live with her betrayal, but I didn't want to be the cause of your divorce. Plus, let me confess to a more selfish reason. If you were nearby, you could keep a close eye on Eric, and you did that. Half the reason he turned out to be a fine young man is your influence on him. I know that, and I'll always be grateful for that. It's true. After the Rizzo's divorce and until Victoria moved away 3 years ago, the boys became closer, and Henry was almost a second father to Eric. Michael watched Henry for a minute, watching him try to absorb this information. Kind of makes your head spin, doesn't it? Spin? I'm ready to puke. I'm so dizzy, I can't tell you how many times I thought of beating the shit out of you, and here you are, just as much a victim as me. I'm glad you're not one of those hotheads coming into my office with guns blazing. Well, now I have to find Mazzetti and have a talk with him. Any idea where he went to? Michael answered, Mazzetti's dead. Dead? How? Boating accident. He had too many drinks, went out on his boat on Lake Mead and fell overboard. Drowned. The smile on Michael's face as he related Mazzetti's fate sent a chill down Henry's back. The smile was there for only a split second before being replaced by a look of deep concern. Shame, really. We both probably could have sued the bastard for child support or something, but in the long run, it's probably better this way. I don't think either boy would want to connect with someone who goes around seducing married women. With that, both men got off the park bench and walked to the car. As they drove back to the dealership, Michael asked what brought this up after so many years. Henry explained how the DNA test precipitated it all, including Sarah's flight to her sisters. It's none of my business, but what are you going to do now with Sarah? I guess with Mazzetti gone, I'll have to get my answers from Sarah. I was hoping to hear both sides of the story, but all in all, I'm not saddened to hear the asshole drowned. Does Eric know? No, Eric still believes I'm his sperm donor. I try to keep in touch with him and show him I cared despite the divorce from his mom. Some days are better than others. One of us calls the other at least every other week. Henry nodded. James, knowing he's half Italian, will probably complicate things. He thinks he's Eric's half-brother and that you're his biological father. When I tell him the truth, he's bound to want more answers, and it will eventually get back to Eric. You and Victoria might want to get ready. Michael was suddenly overwhelmed with sadness. He loved Eric and didn't want that to change. Can you ask James to hold off a week? Give me a chance to talk to Eric. You know I will, and I know James will agree. Good luck, Michael, and thanks. By the time Henry climbed into his car and started the drive home, he was physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted. There was a sign for a chain hotel before one of the exits as he headed south. Henry decided to pull over and get a room, whether for a few hours or the night he'd decide later. With the key to a room in hand, Henry changed his mind about a nap. The gentleman's club across the street seemed to be calling his name. He hadn't been in a strip club since his bachelor party almost 30 years ago. In fact, Henry had only seen one naked woman besides his wife in all those years. Time to fix that. As Henry walked into the club, he almost turned around. What the hell am I doing here? But he paid the cover and sat down in the rear of the room. Next door was a liquor store. Henry bought a pint of bourbon and went to his room. The following morning, Henry woke up with a splitting headache. He looked at the clock. Damn, it was 9:30. His mouth tasted awful. No wonder. The last time he brushed his teeth was yesterday morning. Henry put on his pants and a t-shirt and walked to the office. He grabbed a tin of aspirin, a toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, and a cup of coffee before heading back to his room. The shower helped, and within an hour he was feeling more human. He dialed Sarah's number and was pleased when she picked up. We need to talk. I'm at work right now. When do you want to meet? I can be at the house in an hour. Can you take the rest of the day off? Wipe your heat. Yes. Where are you? Henry's headache was coming back and it was making him miserable. Never mind where I'm at. Just tell me if you can be at the house soon. Henry could hear Sarah start to cry. I'll be there. I love Henry had hung up. As Henry drove north on the freeway, he wondered why, after all these years, he was so angry. He'd known for years that James wasn't his biological son. He always suspected Rizzo was the father. Oh, was part of his anger the new knowledge that Sarah had been with that sleazy Mazzetti and that Mazzetti was James's father? He always hated that guy. Henry realized that no matter how far down you push the feelings of being cuckolded, those feelings are always there. Sarah was already at the house when Henry pulled into the drive. He walked into the house to the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Sarah was sitting at the same dining room table, at the same seat, where Henry last saw her 3 days ago. So much has happened since Easter, he thought to himself as he watched Sarah open a box of pastries from his favorite bakery. Bribery, Henry said it with a smile in his voice. He loved this woman. Who said these are for you? Sarah replied as she took a bite out of the cream cheese sweet roll. Sarah's humor was one of the traits Henry loved about her, and she knew it. He appreciated her attempt to lighten the moment. But it was time to get serious. Tell me about Frank Mazzetti. Sarah actually flinched when Henry said the name. She suddenly looked small and scared. Could this be the end of her marriage? How did Henry find out it was Frank? All these thoughts swirled in her head. With nothing else to help her clear her mind, Sarah stood up and poured the coffee into the 2 cups sitting in front of her. She passed 1 coffee cup and the box of pastries to Henry. Henry sat there waiting, without taking a sip of coffee or a bite of the cinnamon roll. Sarah finally started to speak. It happened twice, I'm sorry. I'd give anything to undo it. Then I ended up pregnant with James. I swear I thought James was yours. Everyone said how much he looked like me and my brothers. It wasn't until he started to grow up that I saw James and Eric together when they were in the same fifth grade class. I can still remember that horrid moment. It was during a field trip when both Victoria and I were chaperones. I looked at Victoria when the two boys were waiting together to get on the bus. I could see it in Victoria's eyes without her even saying a word we both knew. We never spoke about it, even after Michael left Victoria and filed for divorce, even when Victoria put the house up for sale and left town. Henry was getting tired of the rambling. He wanted answers. Tell me how it started. Sarah looked Henry right in his eyes. When I tell you, I want you to understand something. I'm not excusing my behavior or blaming anyone but myself. I also want you to know that James has been your son in everything but in DNA since he started to grow in my belly. He's our son, yours and mine. I told James the same thing Sunday evening. Henry replied, I'm glad he loves and needs you. It started with Frank 6 months after Hal was born. I was still fighting the extra pounds from the pregnancy and feeling fat and ugly. Henry interrupted Sarah. Don't give me that I was feeling fat and ugly bullshit. When did I ever say you were anything but beautiful? Given Henry's outburst, Sarah's reply was calm, much calmer than she felt. You didn't have to say it. All you had to do was screw that bitch from work for the year you two were carrying on your affair before and after Hal was born. If Sarah had pulled out a shotgun and blasted Henry in the chest, the effect of her words couldn't have been more severe. He sat with his mouth open and just stared without saying a word. What? You didn't think I knew? Did you think you were so sneaky that I couldn't smell the intimacy in her perfume on you when you rolled in late from working all evening on important projects? Henry still hadn't said a word, so Sarah continued. I didn't set out to cheat or to get even. All I wanted was for you to figure out you still loved me and wanted me for your wife instead of that girl. What kind of woman tries to steal a man away from his wife who just gave birth to his infant son? Frank took advantage of the situation. He was walking past the house one evening. I had just come home and Hal was in the back seat. I had the groceries in the back of the car and Hal was screaming his head off because he was dirty. Frank stopped, and while I changed Hal, Frank brought in the groceries. You were working late again. I invited Frank to sit and have a beer while I put the groceries away. Frank was charming and I told him more than I should have. That was Frank's in and my downfall. He was a master seducer with his charm and good looks. I was the lonely, pissed-off new mom with low self-esteem. For the few weeks Frank seemed to be available anytime I needed something done. Call me anytime, he said. So I did. When the garage door got stuck and you were at work, Frank fixed it. When the furnace was putting out a bad odor, Frank found a dead mouse trapped inside. And every time he came over, he'd tell me how beautiful I was. He even gave me a bouquet of flowers. They sat right there on the dining room table for 4 days and you never noticed them. Then one day he kissed me, and before I knew it, I was naked on my back and Frank was inside me. Do you want specifics? Like, was he better than you or bigger than you? Henry just shook his head. No, he was still trying to get his head around the fact Sarah knew about the affair. An affair with a coworker that lasted 8 months before he ended it. He remembered why it ended when he felt Sarah slipping away from him and he realized how much he loved her. He remembered the fear when Janice Muller threatened to call Sarah and tell her all about their affair. He had dodged a bullet, a nearly year-long affair, and his wife was none the wiser. It was a secret Henry kept for these past 20-plus years. Sarah wasn't finished, and her words interrupted his thoughts. Good, but I will tell you he was neither, no better, no bigger, but he was there when I needed a friend. Only he wasn't a real friend, just one more asshole with an ego who was looking to score. A couple of days after that first time, he came back and we did it again. 2 things happened after that second time. Number 1, my conscience hit me so hard that I cried on and off for 2 days. Number 2, the very next day you came home right after work and kissed me like you hadn't kissed me in almost a year. When I told you I hadn't made dinner, you took Hal and me to Sullivan's for a nice dinner. We made love that night and every night for the next week. I was in heaven. You were my husband again. I thought that was the week James was conceived because it was my fertility week. I never dreamed that Frank was the father, not until the day of the field trip. Was he the only one? Henry asked. Sarah was pissed and her voice rose when she responded. Yes. Was Janice Muller the only one? Damn, she even knew and remembered her name. Yes, she was. And I'm sorry, it was stupid of me, and it's the one thing I'm most ashamed of in my entire life. Well, I guess that makes two of us. What do we do now? I know you always hated Frank's guts, and now you know he and I had an affair, even if it was a short one, and that he's James's biological father. Can you even look at me after this? I still love you, Sarah. I still want to be your husband, friend, and lover. I want us to grow old together. I'm not naive, there might be some fallout, maybe a few arguments after this, but I want you to move back home today. Sarah got up from her chair and sat in Henry's lap. She put her arms around his neck and gave him a kiss. Take me to bed. And he did. After they made love, they got up and ordered Thai for dinner. Henry and Sarah sat on the back porch eating spring rolls, green curry, and pad Thai, drinking a nice peanut grease and talking. Henry, please tell me you're not going to do anything stupid and go after Frank now. Sarah, do me a favor. Stop referring to him as Frank. Call him Mazzetti or asshole, but not Frank. And to answer your question, no, I'm not going to chase after him. I can't because Mazzetti is dead. Dead? How do you know that? Because Michael Rizzo told me Mazzetti died in a boating accident. Michael told you? You don't think. I don't know and I don't care. But not everybody whose name ends in a vowel is mobbed up, so just forget about it. You have to work on your Sopranos accent if you're going to do that. You suck at it. Still, that crazy humor made Henry laugh. They were going to be okay. A little over a week later, James and Eric were knocking at the front door on a Saturday afternoon. Henry was pleased to see the two boys and even more pleased to see them both smiling. I can't believe this bum is my brother, Eric said it while laughing. Dad and I talked on Thursday and told me all about it. It got me thinking how much I owe you, Mr. Phillips. You've been there for me since my folks split up. I know I wouldn't have gone into engineering if you hadn't encouraged me. All I can say is thanks. Henry gave Eric a hug. You're welcome. And you know you are always welcome in our home. The world is a crazy place, almost as crazy as this household. You and your dad work everything out. We're going to be okay. He's a funny guy. He was more worried about my mom and you, said I should never think less of my mother, that everyone screws up and she'll always love me and be my mom. Said you were someone I should look up to, the way you and Phillips stuck it out and worked to keep your marriage going, how you've shown a rare manliness in it all. I can see what he's saying. Thanks again? Henry smiled. I told James the other day, and I'll tell you the same. When you get married, don't let temptation lead you astray. Haley and I are the rare exception. Few couples survive infidelity. Now come on into the garden. Haley is back there and would love for you two to visit. I'll get us all a beer. Henry was pulling 4 beers out of the fridge when he saw it. A fresh banana cream pie on the second shelf. He never did get a piece of the pie on Easter Sunday. Henry smiled. I think I better keep her. The story of the Phillips family is a perfect example of how, in life, nothing is permanent and everything can change in the blink of an eye. What seemed like a perfectly ordinary day, filled with family togetherness and celebration, was suddenly upended by a shocking truth that no one expected. Long-hidden secrets that were kept buried for years were revealed, and relationships that seemed unbreakable began to unravel in an instant. This unexpected revelation tested the very foundation of the family, forcing them to confront difficult truths, face painful realizations, and navigate the emotional aftermath. As the story unfolds, we see how the Phillips family is caught in a whirlwind of confusion, betrayal, and heartbreak. James, the beloved son, suddenly discovers that he is not the biological child of his father, Henry. Instead, the DNA test results reveal that James's biological father is someone else, Frank Mazzetti, a man his mother, Sarah, had an affair with years ago. This discovery shakes James to his core as he grapples with the identity crisis and the unsettling realization that the man who raised him may not be his true father after all. But the shock doesn't stop there. The story continues to evolve as the truth about James's paternity leads to a series of emotional confrontations and painful revelations. Sarah, James's mother, is forced to face the consequences of her past actions. She confesses to her affair with Frank Mazzetti, revealing the deep emotional turmoil that led her to make such a decision. She explains how the affair was a response to feeling neglected and unloved in her marriage to Henry, who, unbeknownst to her, had been having his own affair at the time. The complicated dynamics of love, betrayal, and forgiveness are laid bare as Sarah and Henry attempt to navigate the aftermath of their respective betrayals. At the heart of this story is the theme of love and forgiveness. Despite the deep wounds caused by betrayal, Henry and Sarah try to rebuild their marriage, even as they come to terms with the painful truth. Their journey is not an easy one. The scars of betrayal run deep, and the trust that was once the cornerstone of their relationship is shattered. Yet, in the midst of their pain, they both realize that love is not simply about perfection or avoiding mistakes. Love is about resilience. Love is about forgiveness. Love is about being willing to move past the hurt and begin anew. The lessons we learn from this story are not just about overcoming betrayal and rebuilding trust. They also speak to the importance of family bonds. The story emphasizes that while secrets may be revealed and relationships may be tested, the strength of family can help overcome even the most difficult challenges. In the end, the Phillips family finds a way to heal, to forgive, and to move forward together. Though the scars may never completely fade, they learn to accept the flaws, the mistakes, and the imperfections that make them who they are. But what about James? How does he handle the revelation about his biological father? The answer is complex. James struggles with the realization that his entire identity has been built on a lie. He feels betrayed by both of his parents and is unsure of where he belongs in the family. However, as the story progresses, James begins to understand that blood does not define family. It's the love, the care, and the shared experiences that create bonds that are unbreakable. James's journey is one of self-discovery, acceptance, and ultimately, forgiveness. Through the process of healing, James learns to reconcile his relationship with Henry, the man who raised him, and to accept the truth about his biological father. Eric Rizzo, James's close friend and the son of Frank Mazzetti, also plays a crucial role in this emotional journey. Eric, too, faces the complexity of his relationship with his biological father and the man who has been a father figure to him for so many years. Through his interactions with James and Henry, Eric comes to understand the importance of family and the sacrifices that are made for the ones we love. His own story of forgiveness and reconciliation mirrors that of the Phillips family, and in the end, Eric finds peace with his past. Through the ups and downs, the story ultimately delivers a powerful message. Love is not about perfection, and families are not defined by blood alone. The challenges and betrayals faced by the Phillips family could have torn them apart, but instead, they brought them closer together. They learned that love, though tested, is capable of healing even the deepest wounds. And forgiveness, though difficult, is the key to moving forward. If this story has touched your heart and you found yourself moved by the incredible resilience of the Phillips family, we invite you to join us as we explore more stories of love, loss, and redemption. There are countless tales out there waiting to be discovered, and we believe that every story has the power to teach us something valuable about life, about ourselves, and about the people we love. By subscribing to our YouTube channel, you'll have access to even more captivating stories just like this one. Our goal is to bring you real-life tales that resonate, stories that are filled with raw emotion, and life lessons that are both powerful and profound. Whether you're looking for inspiration, a lesson in forgiveness, or simply a heartfelt story to enjoy, our channel is the perfect place to find it. Don't miss out on the chance to be part of this incredible journey. Hit the subscribe button and make sure to turn on notifications so you'll always be the first to know when a new video is released. Every story we share is crafted with care, and we promise you won't want to miss what's coming next. We value each and every one of our subscribers, and your support helps us continue to create meaningful content that touches lives. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing more unforgettable stories with you in the future. Together, let's keep exploring the power of storytelling and discover the lessons that life has to offer.